Hello, everyone. We are moving on today to our next stage of the research process, which is evaluating sources and beginning to form a thesis. So by now, you all should have a lot of different types of sources, a lot of different research that you have been doing, maybe from news sources, um, maybe from all of the databases. You have a bunch of stuff. You should have a good list going for your sources. And now it's time to look at each and every single one of those sources with your group and basically take the crap test. Get it? LOL. Ha ha ha, crap. And this is what we do in terms to make sure that all of our sources are good. And so here are a couple things that you have to look at to make sure that you have good sources for your research. Number one, is it current? Okay, check the publication date and determine whether it is sufficiently current for your topic. It really depends. It depends on your topic and how current it needs to be. Some of your topics have things that change constantly or ideas that change constantly. Is this outdated information? You need to check that. Okay. Is it relevant? Is this source relevant to your research? If it covers the topic adequately for your needs? What's the authority? What are the credentials of the author? Do they have expertise and knowledge about the subject? Do they know what they're doing, basically? Did they write their essay, or do they write their argument in a way that shows that they have done a lot of research and that they are knowledgeable about what they are writing about? This is where you can bring in and think about all that stuff we did about ethos, pathos, and logos. That's what this one is thinking about. What's the author's ethos? Do you trust the author's ethos? Is there significant kind of logos, facts in their argument in order to show that they know what they're talking about? Continued on with the crap test, the next A is accuracy. Okay. Does the source present accurate information? Do they have a lot of research? What is fact versus what is opinion? And being able to determine that. When are they citing fact, but when are they citing opinion? Does their opinion match their facts? Do they have backup for their opinions, evidence for their claims? How accurate is everything? And then the final thing is purpose. What is the author objective? What is the author's purpose in creating the source, and is the author unbiased? And I'll get into a little bit more about bias in a second here, but basically, are they trying to present information in a way that is proven through facts, and is proven through the research that they themselves have done, or do they have an agenda? Are they working for an organization that believes in certain things? Do they have personal beliefs that are coming into their argument? Knowing and realizing that is something that it's important. You need to verify each source using this crap test, okay, basically, and make sure that they pass the test. Now, things like purpose, right? You might say something like, oh, this author is a little biased. It seems that they believe blank, blank, and blank. That's not necessarily bad, but it's something for you to acknowledge and to know. Okay. This kind of goes into extra verification for news outlets, any sort of news sources that you did. News outlets, think tanks, organizations, and individual authors present information from a particular political perspective. Consider this fact to help determine whether sources are useful for your paper. Check a news outlet's website, usually under About Us, or contact us for information about the reporters and authors. If a particular organization is mentioned in an article, learn more about the organization to identify potential biases. Searching news articles about the organization can help you determine their political leaning, which again is not bad if they do have a political leaning, and especially in our very divisive time right now politically that's happening in America, news outlets have taken sides. Okay, so like the most extreme example, right, is anything that you get from MSNBC is going to be more liberal news sources than things that you would get from Fox News. That's okay, as long as you acknowledge it, and as long as it's something that you realize that bias exists, specifically in news. And knowing the perspective of that source helps you contextualize the information presented. So just make sure that you realize that. And that might be something in your website, something that you have to acknowledge when you are trying to form your argument, is that this is a good source, but we do need to tell you that a bias does exist. This is a liberal-leaning paper and a liberal-leaning author, and therefore their views are more aligned with liberal politics, right? So that might be something that you have to acknowledge when you are looking at the news outlets. So take a little bit of extra time with any of your news articles to check anything about that news source and what that is. I think it is very difficult to find a news source that is not biased, okay? Differing perspectives. You may have found articles that have differing points of view on your topic, maybe differing arguments, and that's okay. That's actually great, I think. This is going to help you form your thesis, and you can use the other sources as the basis for possible oppositions. The whole point of research is entering into a conversation about your topic. The whole point basically is to show is that you have seen all sides of your topic and that you have looked at all types of variety of things, and that you are now ready to become an expert that can put in your own ideas, put in your own argument about this topic, and use all of the things that you have seen as a way to back up your claims and to show, hey, I know what opposing viewpoints have said about this, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to show you why it's wrong, why it's opposing, and why I don't agree with it. So that's really the whole point of doing this research, is basically to become an expert at your topic. So this kind of leads me to writing your thesis, which is a step that you should also be taking. First thing that you need to do after you have evaluated your sources is you need to work to achieve group consensus about what your argument is going to be. You need to come together to determine what research you agree with and what research you don't. And from there, you need to discuss your argument. What is it that you want to argue about your topic? Every member of your group should be in agreement when you are forming a preliminary thesis. A thesis is no more than 2 sentences. It should present the topic of your paper and also make a comment about your position in relation to the topic. It needs to be clear, concise, and specific. Now is the time to narrow down your topic and therefore eliminate research that is no longer relevant. So if you were starting off very, very broad, now is the time to narrow down. Realize that your thesis may alter as you continue researching or begin writing or begin developing your website. This is okay. So you don't have to write a thesis and set it in stone. You can go back and revise it if you start writing something and you realize that you actually believe something else, or you realize like this is a really important facet that we haven't acknowledged in our thesis. Keep revising. Make sure you always go back to your original thesis and see if it still matches what you are doing in your website. I cannot tell you how many times in my education career I have started writing, had a thesis, started writing, and then like halfway through my paper or halfway through my project, I realized that I have completely changed my viewpoint. And I need to go back to my original thesis and I need to revise. That's okay. Just make sure you do that. Okay. Begin to think about your call to action, how to solve the issue. This may be revised later. Just start thinking about it. Next time we do a mini lesson, I'm going to be talking about that a little bit more, this call to action. So here's an example. So original thesis, maybe this is a very, very kind of start hypotheses kind of thing. There are serious objections to today's horror movies. That it's very vague. We need to do a thesis like this revised working thesis, okay? But I know that my topic is, and I want to say that there's like a problem with it, okay? So my revised working thesis is going to be, because modern cinematic techniques and looser rating systems have allowed filmmakers to get more graphic, horror flicks have desensitized young American viewers to violence. This translates to a lack of emotional reactivity and diminished empathy in real-world situations. Therefore, and this is where I'm going to explain what should be done. This is going to be my call to action sentence. I just don't know yet. I need to think about this more. I need to do more research. Okay. So if you're not quite at that call to action yet, that's fine. But you need to have a thesis that's working like this: clear, specific, Okay. And why it is a problem, essentially, or why this is an issue is what you need to do. To fully prove my thesis on the left in my website, I have to have pages that explain and analyze modern cinematic techniques, explain and analyze rating systems and how it has changed to allow more graphic violence, prove that desensitization directly correlated to horror movies, prove that violence in the media has an impact on the real world, and bring in opposing viewpoints to argue against this, and have a call to action, propose a solution. But yeah, I don't know that yet, right? But I need to have research basically for all of those different types of things that I have said in my revised working thesis. Okay? And I need to show all of this and I need to prove all of this so I can fully say, yes, I have done that research and my argument is backed up by evidence. Okay. So coming into that, this is the tasks for this class and next. First task, evaluate. Come together, your group should come together and work together, figure out a way to evaluate your sources and possibly do more research, right? So just know, right, it's up to you on how you want your group to work, but you guys have to come to a consensus about how you are going to divide up the work, how you guys are going to work together. You can stay on conference call for an entire 80 minutes, or maybe you divide up work and work individually and then come back together. You all need to decide on what to do. Build a thesis. Your group should reach a consensus about your position and draft a thesis. Again, when you do this, how you do this, you guys have to work that out as a group. And you guys should also, in this class and next, begin to map out a plan about how you are going to present information on a website. Maybe start getting a kind of foundation built for a website, get that going. You don't have to get fully into it yet, but maybe starting to think about this. I also want you to remember that research is an ongoing process. Just because we are moving on from that research stage does not mean that the research stage is completely over. You can continue to research as your ideas develop and evolve and continue looking for research that may be better than previous ones that you have found. So research is ongoing throughout this entire project, and you should recognize that and keep looking if you have any sort of time, right? Maybe when you do your evaluation, you find out, I don't know if maybe only 3 of these work. You need to go back and do some more research, and that's okay. It's not like you're behind if you're doing research. And that's it. Get to work. Lesson on for Gold Days the 6th of May and for Blue Days the 7th of May. So this class you're going to be working on all that stuff I just said, plus the class after that. We won't be meeting on WebEx, but on May 6th and 7th, I'm going to talk about the call to action in more detail. And just in general, know that I am always available during class time to answer questions and review ideas with you. So use me as someone who can help. Use me to ask any questions or bounce off any ideas, okay? All right, guys, get to work.